Hey everybody, it's Tracy Brown from Intentional Inclusion, and I'm so happy that you are participating in the Achieving Inclusion Summit. Every quarter we do something that is designed specifically for education and inspiration for those of us who are so involved in diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, accepting. We do this work, and I know sometimes it gets really challenging. So, in this quarter, we are hosting the Achieving Inclusion Summit, and the theme, as you already know, is Be Bold. I feel like this is a gift to me in a way because during the summit, I get to talk with so many different kinds of people. Some I have met before and known for 20 plus years, and others who I get to meet for the first time. And this next conversation I am really excited about because I do get to meet someone I've never met before. But let me tell you, when I read her book, Dear White Woman, Please Come Home, I was like, one day I'm going to talk to her. One day I'm going to meet her and we are going to have a conversation because I feel so resonant with so much that is in this book. So let's have a conversation with Kimberlee Yolanda Williams. Welcome, Kimberlee.
Thank you so much, Tracy. I'm so excited to be with you.
I just love that you said yes. I love that you said yes. And in case anyone has to leave before this conversation ends, you see, I put on the screen for them to visit your website, engagingacrossdifference.com. And of course, we'll put that back up near the end of our conversation. But that's number one, because people, if they hear you for 5 or 6 minutes, they're going to be like, how do I stay in touch? How do I learn more? How do we hire her? So let's start at that place of like the 3 or 4 minute version of like,
Yeah.
who are you? And for
Mhm.
people who haven't met you before, haven't read the book, who are you? And then what drove you to write the book?
Yeah. You know what, Tracy, when you ask me who I am, I think the word that comes to me first is humanist. I believe in all of the good of humanity. I believe, second, I would say I'm an empath. I feel everything, whether I want to or not. And I'm super compassionate. So my approach to this work is radical in that it's not about being angry. It's about coming to the table with those that are different and talking about the stuff that society says we're not supposed to talk about. So and I will tell you what people don't want to hear because a lot of times when people get me to the table, they say, well, Kim, when can we get angry? I say, well, it depends on what your goal is. And so this book, I will tell you, began with anger. And I was so angry. I was so angry. I was at a workshop where white women and black women were to come together and to heal and to share truths with one another. And every black woman that shared a truth, and they had to share why they had not shared this truth previously. And every black woman, and I have to tell you, there were not many of us at this workshop. Every black woman that shared, I didn't tell you because I didn't think you cared. And then the white woman, every white woman will respond by saying, wait a minute, you think I don't care? I didn't even know. And I'm sitting there burning up in my chair, Tracy. I was on fire. I was like, what do you mean you don't know? We are on TikTok, count it, Tracy. TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, like we are YouTube, we are everywhere. And so I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean you don't know? How is that even possible? So then I rode home and I was angry. I was steaming. I was like, well, wait a minute. We have been socialized not to tell the truth to white folks if we feel like there might be some sort of retaliation or we know it's a waste of energy sometimes. So maybe they don't know. So I said, you know what? After today, never again. And I think I was still angry, Tracy. I was like, nobody's ever again going to say I didn't know, because I'm going to write them a book with letters directly to them so that they do know. And I'm going to tell the truth. And so I thought I might lose my black card for doing it, but I did it anyways. And here we are 5 years later. I didn't think I would share it with the world, though. For me, it was about healing. And my partner will tell you, she's like, I knew you were going to, I knew it was going to go out into the world, but I thought I was joking, Tracy, but here we are 5 years later.
Well, one of the things that is important, and I think it is also really powerful, is for anyone who hasn't read the book, it is a collection of letters. It's a collection of letters written to dear white woman, dear right, and they're not long. It's not a 10-page letter, right? There are very powerful, very concise letters. And when you were writing, so it's dear white woman. Everyone starts with dear white woman. Was there a dear white woman in mind?
No, because you know what? Every story was about a different white woman. Every story. So all the stories are true, but for me, it's this ideological missing white sister, because you know, in the Black community, Black women we have like this inherent sisterhood that we're born into almost. And we see each other and we smile at each other. You know, I'm gonna say some of those things have changed over the years, but that's a different conversation. And I just thought to myself, what if I could look at you and depend on you, no matter who you are, white woman, as a sister? And when I say sister, I mean that you've got my back, even though you might not even know my name, but you've got my back in a way that I can depend on you no matter what I'm going through. And I started writing.
So, do you have a favorite letter?
I think my favorite letter, if I had to choose one, my favorite letter is about, oh, I have so many favorites. Okay, I'm going to choose one right now. My favorite letter, I would say, is about where it shares a little bit about my experience where I have been begging my mom to take me out of the house when I was in a cast up to my knee because I had had a foot and ankle reconstruction and I couldn't do anything for myself. And my mom's like, you don't need to get out of the house. And I'm like, no, I'm like, I have cabin fever. I need to get out of this house. And she's like, you're just going to get tired from, all the work that it'll take to get you to the car, to get the car to the mall. And then, so we went to the mall, and that letter about the interaction that I had where, literally standing on one leg, this lady thought I would steal a jacket from the store. I'm laughing because I'm like, lady, I'm on one leg. Where would I even put this jacket? What?
Down the cast? Like inside
That's
the
what I was
cast?
gonna say. Inside my cast. That's probably one of my favorite.
Yeah, and it's hard because there are 40 letters, so it's hard to. I'm sure it's difficult to pick one.
Yes.
And I didn't write them, and I don't know if I could pick one. I kind of go between.
Oh, I want to hear your favorite.
I kind of go between the hockey game.
Oh, yes.
And maybe because in that particular letter, the whole idea of Black folks are referred to as so violent, right? But the experience that you had and that you had at the hockey game, and and white people yelling, kill him, kill him, kill him.
Yes.
Like I could just feel being in an arena with thousands and thousands of people, and then thinking and your title, and you think we're violent.
Right.
But I don't know that one, or yeah, it's too hard. There are like 5 or 6 that are vying for. No, me. I'm your favorite. No, I'm your favorite.
Right. one of my other favorites is the final, and I'm giving you the inside scoop. I've never said this in an interview before, so nobody has heard me talk about this. I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure. Well, she does. She does know, but I haven't thanked her publicly, so I'm gonna thank her right now. Um, my editor in the editing phase read the final letter of the book, and she said, "Kim, your spirit does not come through. I need you to rewrite this letter." And I went like up into my office and just sat for a while with it, and I just wiped it away, and I just started writing from my heart. And when she read it, she was just like, Kim, this is it. So the final letter is one of my favorites because of the process that I went through to get it to the world. And my editor, Shondale, is amazing. And she started crying. She was like, "This is it, Kim. This is it. This is it." So that's one of my favorites.
Finally you found me, and
Mm.
it was a great, it is a great, like after reading all the other letters,
Hmm.
if it had been earlier in the book, it would not have had the same impact,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So the other thing that one of the things when I first ordered the book and got it and was reading it, that I loved was that at the end of every letter, you
Mm.
actually give us, there's a call to action, right?
Yes.
There's a call
Yes.
to action. And so if I am, especially if I am a white woman and I'm reading the book, that you give me something to think about. Reading it as a person who's not a white woman, I found that
Mm.
I also got a lot out of the questions, both from thinking about how do the people, the women I know who I know well, who are white, how might they answer or respond to? What kind of stories or
Mm.
memories do I think they would come up with?
Right.
Second, from the perspective of a consultant who works with a lot of people, like, oh, how do I think if I were to ask everybody in a workshop to read this letter and then we answered
Mm.
these questions, like what kinds of, that's when I knew you really had something, because I could be
Mm.
like, oh, they're not going to be defensive. They're only telling their own story. And we could mine
Mhm.
it for
Mhm.
not just the content, but the meaning and the impact.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then third, just, as a Black woman, like, oh yeah, I would love to ask that question. Or I need to think about that from how I behave.
Mhm.
Am I behaving in a way that truly is allowing me to know and understand people from another racial background, ethnic background, sexual orientation? Just like, oh, am I walking my talk of being
Right.
committed to
Right.
inclusion?
Yeah. Tracy, that's so powerful because so many men have reached out to me and said, when I picked up this book to read it, I didn't think I would get anything out of it. But reading it, I'm sitting here crying. I've got tears in my eyes, and I'm asking myself to look in the mirror and ask, can I, as a man, do better? And I was like, whoa. So you're right. So many people of color have said to me, like, I think this has asked me to do better. And so we're all on this growing journey together. And how can we start to see one another and to engage with one another more authentically? And the only way to do it is to come to the table. It's messy, but it's good messy.
Yeah, maybe we should do t-shirts. Good messy. Good
Good
messy.
messy. Yes. Good messy. I love it. I love it.
So what's been the response, and where has this book, what journey has it taken you on, especially what you may not have expected?
Mm. I want to share first, Tracy, that I definitely thought I was going to lose my black card writing this book. And then the first woman of color that, other than my partner, that I shared with about it, she said to me, Kim, listen, I love you, but I cannot get behind this book. Nope, you're never going to get me to support it. You're never going to get me to believe it because I don't believe it. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, I have a heavy road ahead of me where people of color are concerned. But the most beautiful surprise for me, honestly, has been how many women of color have reached out and said to me, thank you so much for writing this book. Thank you for sharing my story, my mom's story, my grandmother's story. I feel I see myself in this book page after page, and I'm so thankful you wrote it. And so that's been the most beautiful surprise. The journey of the book, I will tell you, Tracy, the consulting practice, my coaching practice has grown so much. So many people have reached out and said, I want the opportunity to work with you one-on-one. And I thought I was busy before I wrote this book, but I'm always, like you and I emailing back and forth, I'm always getting ready to talk to someone or taking makeup off from just having talked to someone. So, or getting ready to get on an airplane or getting ready to come back home on an airplane. And so the most exciting, I will tell you, the most exciting part of the journey that we kind of had to keep a secret because of the legal side of it was I was warned, my team warned me that in the book's second year, maybe somebody would reach out and say, hey, I'd love to buy the audiobook rights to your book. And in the book's second month in existence, a company reached out and said, we want you to do the audiobook with us. And so we were in negotiations and in contract writing and signing and recording. And finally, we were able to announce that the audiobook was coming out. And I will tell you, I had to audition. People don't know that you have to audition to narrate. You know, I had to kind of audition to be the narrator of my own book. And recording it was such a beautiful experience. I cried and I was like telling the producer, I was like, stop it. I can't cry on this book. And she's like, no, people need to hear the raw truth. And so you listen to the audiobook and you're going to hear me crying, you're going to hear me laughing, and you're going to hear my voice go up and down. It was just this intimate experience with myself, with a microphone and my own feelings and thoughts. And to read it back out loud was challenging because those letters, all of those stories are true. All of them are true. So they took me back to that place, and it's been a beautiful journey. So I'm back on media tour because of my audiobook coming out last month. And so people are reaching out saying, hey, I just saw you I heard you on the radio, or I just saw you on this program. So it's pretty funny for my family to reach out and say, hey, I saw you on TV today. So it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun getting to work with new clients. It's pretty cool.
How beautiful is all of that? So you know that one of the tracks in the Achieving Inclusion Summit is all about confronting racism.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons that I did reach out to you was because you've mentioned it more than once already. There's more than one way to confront racism.
Yes.
And I was hoping you would say yes, because what I've learned especially like, I have a Facebook group, What Is Mine to Do, with
I love that.
With about 7,000 members. And the question really is, what is mine to do to interrupt and or end race-based hatred and violence? So we use the word racism a lot, but it's race-based hatred and race-based violence.
Yes.
And funny because there are some people who don't resonate with the group because of what you said. They just want to blast everybody they think is doing something wrong. And, I keep steering the group to, but you need to make a difference with the people or the people you interact with, wherever you are. And there are times to be angry.
Yes.
And there are times to be an educator, and there are times to build relationships. And there are times to, right? And so you have to have more than one approach. And we don't know how to do that. So I love that you you know, the subtitle, Hand Me Your Bias and I'll Show You Our Connection, that you constantly in the book, the letters, my interpretation, I'll be honest, I didn't even ask you this before, but my interpretation, you are constantly in the letters. It's like, I'm, I know we must be connected. Wait, what did you just do or say? Like, oh, we're not connected the way I thought we were, but I'd like us
Yep.
to be.
Yes. 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 And
So,
that,
yeah,
go
if we're
ahead. Go ahead.
not angry, like,
Mhm.
what do we do?
That, and so I want to touch on that. Hand me your bias and I'll show you our connection. There was a practitioner that reached out and said, I disagree with this statement. You know, we have to get connected before we can talk about bias. But sometimes our biases connect us. Sometimes they connect. And I'll give you an example. A man reached out to me, and a white man reached out to me and said, you know, Kim, I think everything you're doing is racist. I think it's divisive. I think you're taking us back to segregation. And I said, you know what? I'd love to hop on a call with you and to discuss how you feel. And so we got on Zoom together, and he said, yeah, I'm here to talk about your work and what I think about it. I said, wait, before we jump into my work and how you feel about it, I said, every meeting that I am a part of or that I lead, no matter how big or small, I start with what I call random facts. And I said, will you give me a random fact about you? And he shared that he was in Palm Springs and why he was in Palm Springs, and how his family ended up living in Palm Springs because his mom was ill, and the family, in order to get the care that she needed to be in Palm Springs. And they all moved out there to support her in her journey, and she ended up passing away. And I said, oh, wow. I said, you and I have so much in common. I said, do you know that there's 1 month out of the year every year where I'd rather talk to you than to talk to my spouse? And he kind of paused, and I said, when the month of November comes around, or an election, and this, I share this in the book, the story of my dad's passing. I said, you understand what it's like to watch your parent die. You understand what it's like to plan their memorial service or funeral. You understand what it's like to have to pick out a coffin. You understand what it's like to have to put them in the ground or in an urn. You understand so much more on an experiential level than my spouse does, because neither of her parents have passed away. And he said, his eyes welled up with tears, Tracy, and he said, wow, I guess I have a place in your work too. I said, you absolutely do. And it's about creating connections, because if you and I start working together, the power that we have is just immeasurable. The power that we have together, please. Black woman and white man working together to stop racism. Come on, sir, let's get together. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so there is no person. I always tell people, I didn't come to save the KKK. But there is no person that I sit down with and I can't connect with. There is none. There is none. So if you and I can find what we and to find how our differences unite us, listen, we are unstoppable, Tracy. We are unstoppable.
Yes, yes. So, confronting racism with a commitment
Mm,
to finding connection. That's what
mm,
I'm hearing you say. That
mm,
actually too is confronting racism.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. When you see the human, when you're willing to look past the fact that I live with a physical disability, the fact that I'm married to a woman, the fact that I am black, the fact that I am, that I'm from a family I'm from a larger family. When you're willing to look past all those things and just see my humanity, when you see my humanity, you're not willing to let me suffer. You're not willing to let someone accuse me of stealing a jacket. You're not willing to let me be followed around a store. You're not even willing to let a cashier or a floor worker greet you and not me when I come in the store. You've got your head, what I like to say, keeping your head on a swivel. You're looking for it, and you're ready to call it out. Because when George Floyd was murdered, oh my goodness, I felt so alone here in Seattle. But I went to Target one day and people were afraid of catching COVID too. And I was in Target one day and this lady had on a mask that said Black Lives Matter. And I said, thank you for wearing that because I don't feel like I can. Thank you for wearing that mask. And she just looked at me and she said, and her face was like, wow, wow, I didn't know that this was impactful. But something as simple as that act, that you're willing to break solidarity and to stand up for somebody else, that's confronting without the anger, right? Without the signs, without that's confronting racism. That's confronting it.
And so one of the things that is really challenging is to get people past their barriers or their fears, especially
Mm-hmm.
that fear of offending someone or that fear of
Mm-hmm.
saying the wrong thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
what are you finding really works to encourage folks that you're looking for the connection and then you act based on that? And so, especially if you are the white woman who is targeted, is the target focus in the letters,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
what tangible, how do you turn that
Yes.
into wearing a Black Lives Matter,
Mm.
like something,
Mm-hmm.
it, get out of your head and actually do something?
Hmm. So I love that you touched on the fear, Tracy, because that fear keeps us immobile, right? It paralyzes us, it immobilizes us. And so I like to teach, and I don't know if I have time to touch on it. I'll touch on it very quickly. I One of my favorite workshops to do and to sit down and like get my hands dirty in the mud with folks, workshop participants, is called writing your disclaimer. And the disclaimer is like where you show up to the movies and it's like, wait a minute, you might not want to watch this movie if these things offend you, right? Exactly. Like this movie has drugs, alcohol, this, that. So I tell people, and I give them a formula for how to write their disclaimer. And I'll share an example. I said, when I first came out of the closet, me and my mom, I was raised very, 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 very evangelical. Me and my mom butted heads a lot, a lot. And finally, she learned how to use a disclaimer with me because I was always on defense, ready to go to battle with her. And she was always ready to go to battle too, but she was afraid of saying or doing the wrong thing. And so she started calling me and saying, Kim, okay, so I watched this movie and I want to talk about it with you, but I don't want to say anything that offends you. And I want you to know that I'm willing to learn because I didn't learn about these things and I didn't have these discussions growing up. And it would literally take the steam and let my shoulders come down and relax. And we would have these beautiful conversations about some movie she had watched with gay characters in it, and she wanted to know how it applied to my life or whatever. And so I teach people how to write their own disclaimer. And you can use a disclaimer about any layer of identity, religion, your ethnicity, your race, your gender, your sexual orientation, your gender expression. Yeah, anything, your socioeconomic status. Like people are afraid to make mistakes. And that's what keeps me and you from engaging with one another. And so if you learn how to use a disclaimer, you can set the other person at ease and you can set yourself at ease and we can start to engage more authentically. So it's one of my favorite things to do.
I love that. I love that. Yes, yes. So, and I started listening to you. There was a question that was right on the tip of my tongue, and I lost it. So that's
That's
okay.
okay.
There's no shortage of things to talk with you about, although I am watching our time. So we've got about 5 or 6 more minutes.
Yeah.
So I am curious
Mm-hmm.
about where do you go next? Like not, may
Mm-hmm.
not be the specific thing, but you've
Mm-hmm.
written this book, you're encouraging people to have different kinds of conversations that really do confront the impact of racism on all
Mm-hmm.
of us.
Yes.
What's formulating, what vision is coming forward?
Oh, wow. So one vision that I have, I've got several because everybody has asked along this journey, what is the next book? When are you writing your next book? When is it coming out? And I will tell you, like I said, I'm always on a plane or always in between interviews or so I'm like, what do people think I sit around like and do? So anyways, I was I'm like, when am I gonna write this book? You're right. So I used to think, so what people don't know, or what some people don't know, some people already know, that when we were in the production phase of this book, we had to take out so many letters, Tracy. Like the book is 40 letters. It was like, I want to say like 80 when we started. When we started, we pulled so many letters out. And so I used to say to myself when we were in production, if I write a second book, it's going to be called The Deleted Letters. And then I came out into the world and people started saying, okay, can you write a book called Dear White Man, Please Come Home? And then somebody said, can you write Dear White Children, Please Come Home? Or can you, so like, can you get a series going? And so, so those are some thoughts that I have. And I've got, I know I sound like a busy person, right? So how can I do this? I've got this idea of a traveling retreat where you can come to Seattle and join in this retreat, a small retreat, 10 to 20 people, where over the weekend we dive deep, right? But you can also reach out to us and ask us to bring that retreat to your city, and we will come to your city and do the exact same thing. So that's that. Those are the things that I have. I'm gonna find time. I promise to write another book. I don't know when, but I'm gonna find time.
So, two things come to mind for me with that. One, the busier you are, the more you get done. At least
Mm,
that's how it happens in my life. Like I'm too busy to do it, and I do it
yes,
because,
that's so true.
right, it just happens. It just happens, and you're adding more and adding, and you squeeze it in. And when my calendar is not super busy, I don't get anything done. Like all of the things that it's like when I have more time, I'll do this. No,
That's
it
so true.
might,
That's so true.
and that way it does seem like that we're a lot alike.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
will get it done. And I was not like asking you for like, what are you committed to next? Because that's kind of like
Mm,
it's already happening. You
mhm,
responded with, yeah, it's like it might be this and it might be this. And this is
mm,
energetically what keeps coming up. So we all
mhm.
know what to be watching for, the kinds of things to be watching for from Kimberlee Yolanda Williams over the next couple of years. We'll see some of those. And I bet there's some people who are listening and watching right now who are like, oh, come to my city. Let me get a group of people together. We will bring you here and do, that kind of retreat, I think can be super powerful because it's in person, right? And if you create the
Mhm,
right environment, that
mhm.
people will build some trust and a rhythm. So, for those of you who are watching and you're like, oh, yeah, we want to do that, remember that if you want to stay in touch with Kimberlee, check out her website, engagingacrossdifference.com. And there's a link there for you to be able, there's information there for you to be able to be in contact with her and her team. Because absolutely, I'm already thinking about, like
I love it.
how am I gonna get Kimberlee to Dallas? Let me get a group of people who want to dive deep. And for me, because I do this work, and I think that's the other
Mhm,
thing I want to say to, the DEI practitioners and professionals who are watching. One of the ways that we avoid fatigue is
mhm.
that we put ourselves in the role where we're the participant for
Yes.
a while. Because I know for me, a lot of times, if I'm not careful, I'm always facilitating. I'm speaking at events and conventions. I'm leading groups. But it is really valuable when I stop and go, wait a minute, I'm going to be a participant and let somebody else
Yes.
lead. And
Yes.
I'll go through the experience, even though I'm an expert. If I'm
Right.
the participant, I get to be in my emotions. I get to reflect in
Yes.
real time. I'm not the expert.
Yes.
Do not ask me to come and stand up and tell you what to do.
Yes. Yes. Those are my favorite moments when I can go undercover and just sit and receive. And I'm the participant. I'm the learner. I'm sitting. Those are the best moments. I love it when I get to sit in the back of the room and just be a participant. I love it.
Right. And it's not always easy to do.
It's not. It's
At
not.
least for
It's
me,
not
it's
at
not
all.
always easy to do because other participant will ask a question or say something, and I'll want to jump in,
Yeah.
and I'll be like, Tracy, you're the participant. Let them handle it, right? They may not answer it the way you would, and that's okay.
That's
You're
okay.
here for your own processing.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
I hope everybody who's participating in the Achieving Inclusion Be Bold Summit that you're doing that right now. You are in the processing phase. You are getting the opportunity to say, oh, what did Kimberlee say that I need to think about? And if you have not already ordered the book, please order the book, Dear White Woman. Please come home. Hand me your bias and I'll show you our connection. So, closing comments. What are one or two things that you want to gift people with? Like you want them to really take with them
Mm-hmm.
from this conversation?
Mm. But this work does not have to be angry. It doesn't have to be combative. It can be compassionate, it can be loving, and it can be humanity centering. And my second piece of advice is don't wait for someone to be killed on television for you to decide to do something. The same way coffee or whatever is your morning routine is non-negotiable, mark your calendar once a week, twice a week, every day. Here's what I'm doing today to combat racism. Because if you don't plan it, my dad used to say, when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So come on, people, let's do this together. Let's be bold.
I love that. And I bet many of us think we had the same dad because we've heard that too. Yes. So
Yes.
first, thank you. Thank you. I'm so grateful, Kimberlee, for your yes and for what you have shared in this conversation today. And I know that our paths are going to continue to cross.
Yes,
So,
my sister Tracy, thank you.
so everybody, I just want you to also thank Kimberlee in the chat. You can make your comments, and we will continue with the Achieving Inclusion Summit. So check the schedule and make sure that you either mark the specific times when each conversation goes live, or that you mark your calendar for later in the day when you will be able to go to the feed and then follow up and watch the conversations that are meaningful for you. My name is Tracy Brown. Thanks so much for being a part of the Achieving Inclusion Summit. For more information or to get links to some of the other programs and events that we've done, go to achievinginclusion.com.